Hello, everyone, and welcome. Appreciate the round of applause there. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Index Office Hours. Today is the 27th of February, and this is Index Office Hours 146. For all of those who are new to Index Office Hours, this is the town square where graph ecosystem participants come together and discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. This is a conversation. We love participation, so if you'd like to get involved, please do via the text box in the corner, which most of you are already aware of and are using. Or try and unmute your mic, and if you're having any challenges there, let me know and I can get that sorted for you. As a reminder, this is a recording. This is going to be recorded and distributed onto public channels like YouTube. So if you're concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. With that, let's get into today's agenda. So as always, I'd like to start off today's call with a shout out for 𝗨𝗪𝗂𝗧. And this week we have an episode from 157, from 𝗨𝗀𝗪𝗂𝗧𝗧 John, who is the CEO and co-founder of 𝗨𝗀𝗪𝗧𝗧, which is a AI tool for community managers. He has a very interesting background. He mentioned that he has worked at companies like Coinbase and Facebook, and that has informed his journey in building in Web3. He's also put in a discount code for all 𝗨𝗪𝗂𝗧𝗧 listeners. So if you listen to the podcast episode, you can use the code 𝗨𝗪𝗂𝗧𝗧 to get a Astronaut Pro account for free. I'll post the link if, oh, there you go. Juan is already on it. Fantastic. Yeah, you go check it out and get your promo code if you want to check out Astronaut as well. With that, I will hand over to Anna for our regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Abel, and hello, everyone. All right, so going straight into it. Today on Repo Watch, starting with execution layer client, we have had a new release of 𝗨𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗳. This is 2.58.1, and it's just a patch release that fixes syncing mainnet from scratch and known issue related to index out of range. We have tested this release on all of our test nets, and it's working well. Then on Get, we have had two new releases, starting with the least recent one. So 1.13.13 is a minor release with fixes for issues related to upcoming Cancun mainnet fork. Then next version up, so 1.13.14 is a small maintenance release with some polishes to the blob pool. This release is not critical for the Cancun fork, but is recommended to make Get lighter. Moving on to Firehose Ethereum. Here we have had three new releases. So we had release 2.3.2, which adds some missing mattering events responses and has some fixes for substreams. So fixes bug in schedule runtime function, fixes load balancing from tier 1 to tier 2 when using round robin policy that was not set correctly. Then we had another release, so 2.3.3. This fixes block color panic in previous version, but also comes with a known issue related to the CLI tools. And then the latest release 2.3.4, fixes the known issue from the previous release, so fixes JSON decoding in CLI tools for Firehose client and print merger blocks. Okay, next we have had new release from Avalanche. This is 1.11.1, which fixes suspending transaction repush gossip in peer-to-peer SDK. Then a new release in Cello, so 1.8.1, which includes a collection of bug fixes and enhancements for the blockchain client. And this is a recommended update for all users. Arbitrum Nitro has a new release. This is 2.3.1. This is a significant release. It adds support for 𝗨𝗀𝗟𝗶𝗀 20, which includes EIP 4844 batch posting supports and new EVM opcodes such as mcopy and tstore. This is a big release because it changes the way you run a node. So to run a layer 2 Arbitrum Nitro node, you will now need to supply a beacon chain RPC connection. So this allows the node to query the contents of EIP 4844 batches. So if you're running a layer 1 node locally, your consensus client should expose this RPC. And Prism exposes this RPC on port 3500 and Lighthouse on port 5052 by default. This is all we had on execution layer clients. Moving on to consensus layer clients, new release on Prism, and this includes DNAB, DNAB update. All operators must update their Prism software to this version before the upgrade. It also brings improvements to the backfill functionality of the beacon node to support backfilling blobs. And it also includes a known issue. So if you pass the CLI argument backfill batch size with a value of 1 or less, that will break backfill. So please be aware of that. Then on Teku, we have no new releases. On Nimbus, we have had a new release. So this is 24.2.2, a hotfix release that addresses a consensus violation issue affecting the DNAB transition network, such as Holsky. So please upgrade as soon as possible if your node is affected. We have tested this release again against our test nets. Then on Lighthouse, we have had a new release, which is 5.0.0, a mandatory release for all mainnet and Gnosis users that enables the DNCUM upgrade. And any node which is not updated to this version by March 13 for mainnet and March 11 for Gnosis will stop following the chain and will need to be resynced. So for stakers, this would result in missed rewards and penalties. And we don't have any new updates on GraphStack. And been following the chat, and there weren't any comments. So over to you, Juan. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch, we have a few things to cover. First of all, forum governance, as always. We have Graph Horizon explain the proposal for the evolution of the protocol. There was a small comment from Chris regarding another comment on whether gateways should be operated by DAOs or by core developers. I think it's an interesting topic, and yeah, surely we will find a way forward that's in the best interest for all of us. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Next up, we have forum research. We don't have any new updates on forum research. So for contracts, we do have a few updates, a few PRs. Mostly they are chores, like adding code linting and formatting, and a few bumps to some of the dependencies. But that's pretty much it. And then finally, we have the network subgraphs. We do have a bunch of announcements for the subgraphs. First of all, we are now tracking 5 subgraphs instead of 3, and there's a reason for that. You can see all of them in the agenda. All of those 5 subgraphs have been deployed to the decentralized network, which is yay! Finally we're using the network. I'm gonna be sending the. It's linked in the agenda. If you click in network subgraphs, you will see the actual profile in Arbitrum One that is the owner. It's a multisig that is the owner of those subgraphs. That's going to be the canonical versions for the subgraphs. It's going to be in the decentralized network. They're not yet. They don't have signal yet. We'll be sorting that out hopefully soon. But they are now available in the decentralized network for anyone to hopefully query or even index if you want to. and they will be the canonical versions that indexers or anyone else can use. Indexers, particularly for the graph stack, they can use this. They can index and use these versions if they so want to. But also for the cornerable subgraph analytic subgraphs, we did an announcement yesterday that came from the recently released release processes regarding a new breaking change, both for cornerable subgraph analytics. The staging release has already happened as per the announcement. The staging endpoints are still there for for anyone to start migrating to. They are not super big breaking changes. They shouldn't affect pretty much anyone, I think, because the the biggest breaking change is the schema change in the cornerable subgraph, but it's a schema change on a part of the subgraph that wasn't really usable before because of graph node having issues creating the query types for those particular entities, and that's basically why we had to change the schema. So yeah, it shouldn't really, in this particular case, it shouldn't really affect anyone, but it's technically a breaking change, so we're following procedures as per the latest publication that we did. So yeah, today in about like 3 or 4 hours, we will be releasing as per the announcement, we will be releasing the updates to production. So if you haven't upgraded your apps yet to use the latest changes or be prepared for the latest changes, please do so before the production release. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. I'm going to hand over to Paka now for Project Watch.
Give me 30 seconds. I need to fix a meme. It's important.
Sure thing. Are there any questions about the subgraph releases, decentralized network releases, or anything else that I can help with?
Perfect. I'm good with stalling, so we can move on if necessary. Thank you, Juan.
Yep. Let's go with that, Paka.
Cool. Let me share my screen, and I'll drop the slide link. Chat. Oops. I'm just going to share a meme link instead. Hopefully it doesn't take like 20 minutes to load. If you guys can see it, I'm gonna wait until I get a confirm. Okay, it works. Sick.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, Denver maybe has better Wi-Fi. All right, so Project Watch. In case you don't know me, I'm Paka. I'm a product manager at Edgenode. And this presentation might have more memes than usual. Hopefully that works. And the agenda for today, pretty much the same format that we've been following the last few weeks. Indexer components, graph node, and a little bit of miscellaneous goodness at the end. For indexer components, the main update is just ongoing work with the cost models on other networks when you're using multi-network mode for indexer agent. 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗳𝗂𝗋 from the guild uncovered some related refactoring work that needed to happen on the indexer management API. So he has a draft PR on that, and work is still ongoing. And I'm hoping for a Dr. Evil soon TM on this. Not exactly sure how soon, but I think on the scale of for sure end of Q1, hopefully a little before that. It's really just kind of the final stretch on some things and making sure some tests are passing. Pivoting to GraphNode, the aggregations work that David has been doing is super close to the finish line. We're really hyped on this. It'll be in the next release, which should be coming in the next week or so. But we're just kind of blocked on a PR to introduce a new scalar type called the timestamp, which just kind of simplifies some of the behavior instead of using an int8 for time. And I'd encourage you to check out these docs. It's in the GraphNode repo in the docs subdirectory, and you can kind of read what David's been up to and how users can start using aggregations. And you don't have to aggregate data if it's already aggregated. I'm at 𝗨𝗀𝗃𝗀 this week, and I'm working with 𝗨𝗂𝗟𝗶𝗀 to try to encourage hackers to start kind of tinkering with it on the upgrade indexer, but hoping to roll this out to like the network very, very soon. Another graph node feature that we're working on is supporting indexed argument filtering. So instead of topic 0 or being everything, you can kind of go by these Ethereum topics like topic 1, 2, and 3. And so this can help really filter down the amount of data a subgraph is tracking and help with syncing time. And so my question for you is, are you ready with the 𝗨𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃? And we started work on that yesterday and hope to finish it in the next week or two. And needless to say, I'm once again asking for you to get hyped about the upcoming release. We're really trying to prioritize releasing more frequently and making sure the features are awesome. And so Bernie and I are asking you to get hyped. Now pivoting to miscellaneous, like I teased before, I'm at ETH Denver this week. Thursday through Sunday, I'll be at the Graph booth. And so come say what's up if you're there. Would love to meet you in person, chat about the graph or whatever. But yeah, that is about it for Project Watch. And as always, we gotta appreciate Carl's cool animation.
Amazing. I love the the backer meme behind the graph logo. That was awesome. And have fun at ETH Denver. That sounds fun.
It's snowing
okay,
already.
it's what, sorry?
It was snowing this morning already. Size and cold.
There you go. There you go. There you go. The wonderful Colorado snow. Hope you enjoy it out there. Okay. Yeah, that's funny. Okay. Now we move on to the next segment, which is all about Pinax's new RPC. And so I believe Matthew is here with us today to discuss the new RPC.
Yeah, thanks, Abel. So, last week the Pinax team posted an announcement saying that we've got some RPCs available for people to use. Since we have to run RPCs for our own indexer, we thought maybe other people might want to use them as well. You know, if their own RPC crashes, or maybe they have a subgraph, you know, they want to sync, but they don't have an RPC for it because it's just one subgraph, then maybe, you know, our RPCs might be usable for other indexers. So the target for our RPCs is indexers. So we didn't enable things like, mempool, WebSockets, other things that developers would typically want in an RPC. But it has the features that an indexer uses because these are the RPCs that we use ourselves. So yeah, so they're available. You will need a API key, which you can get from our app, and it is free. So we'll see how the usage goes, and if people really love it a lot, well, we might have to charge for it. But you know, an occasional usage here or there, then feel free to use it. So looking for feedback if this is useful. We did spend time on this because we had some people who wanted these things, so that's why they're here. So yeah, there's the announcement. And thanks, Chris, for the meme there.
Pinax team are on fire with the memes. Okay, who I'm very curious. Raise of hands. Who is keen to try this? And who has thoughts, questions, for the Pinax team? Because there's quite a few of them in today's school.
Yeah, I know there's at least one person on this call who has tried it before. So
amazing. Who's that, if you don't mind me asking?
They have to say themselves. But...
Oh, okay. No doxing.
Exactly. So it's been in test mode for a little while. So there was some, so there were some early testers. But yeah, but now it's available. So have a try.
Phenomenal.
That is my update.
Amazing. So I'm very curious if the person is willing to share about their experience. Of course, no pressure. I think it'd be interesting to have other indexers kind of hear that and then kind of have an informed perspective going into using this this new RPC. But if not, then that's totally good. We can move on to the next topic. Also open for general questions as well.
Yeah, I will say that the list of chains that are supported is smallish, I would say at the moment. But we will be adding more. We actually have a lot more RPCs running than is actually listed on the website. So if you want one that's not listed, please reach out, because maybe we already have it, but it's just not on the website yet. So
amazing. Which one are you going to support next? Do you have a sense from people already using it, or just which one are you thinking about supporting next?
I'm not sure which one officially will be next, but if you go and look at the list of chains that are supported by the hosted service, that might give you a clue of which ones we're working on. Because there's this thing called the upgrade indexer, which we're going to push all this stuff onto the network. So indexers are going to need RPCs for all these chains.
Indeed they are. Indeed they are. I see a few people typing. I see Marc-Andre typing. I'm very curious to hear your perspective as an active indexer. Yes, indeed, it is a riddle that you must solve. Clues everywhere.
Yes, I agree with Marc-Andre. Right, we don't want everybody relying on one point for all the RPCs. That would not be helpful for the network.
What is this in relation to, Mickey? Did I miss something here? Oh, nice. Very cool. Yeah, okay, if it's ENN, then I'm very curious if you're open to discussing, Mickey, about your experience with the RPC. Maybe there's some things you would like to share with other indexers, so they can be informed on their journey of testing this out. Of course, no pressure. If it's not something you want to discuss right now, it's also fine. I see she's typing. Okay, phenomenal. Let's do that then. I'll reach out to you on offline, and then we can organize Mohammed to come on and share a bit about his experience. Wonderful, awesome. Thank you so much, Mickey, and also thank you so much, Matthew, for sharing that update. I'm also going to throw it back to you again, Matthew, because there's another update or discussion we should cover, and that is on EIP 4844. So Matthew, if you would like to take it away, I see you're already sharing your screen. Feel free to.
Yeah, so you can see it okay there?
Yes, right now, yeah.
Okay, so I put some memes in here. We have a theme today that we got many memes. So thanks to most of the ones that I'm posting there were from Yana, and I think one was from Lewis on our team. So Our team is very meme focused today. So yeah, so we're gonna talk about blobs today, and let's go into some background here. So what is EIP 8444? So it's a way to store blobs without bloating the main execution layer chain. So blobs are going to be handled by the consensus layer. They're only going to be stored for 18 days. But, as indexers, we need to be able to, replay old subgraphs. So we need the old data. So you can change your your consensus layer client. You can change it so that it stores it forever. But we thought, well, why don't we do something else more than just that? So here we are. So the other question is, what are blobs going to be used for? So I asked a few people. Rollups is the obvious answer because that's what they're kind of designed for. Somebody's probably going to do inscriptions with them or other weird stuff. Who knows what's coming? But people come up with creative uses for technology. So, all right, we'll see what happens. So long-term blob storage. So as I mentioned, it's some that are only stored by 18 days by default. You can change the consensus layer to store them forever. Various RPC providers, those centralized RPC providers have announced that they are going to store blobs in the long term. We now have a Firehose implementation that can store blobs in flat files. So this whole topic of blobs was discussed here in IOH a couple of weeks ago. So since that time, we do have quite a few updates. So that's why I'm going through these slides today. So the Pinax team has been busy building a Firehose beacon RPC polar. So this uses the technology built by Streaming Fast that we use for, like the Arbitrum Classic, for example, uses the RPC polar. So we use the same technology here to build a polar for the beacon chain. The source code is open. You can download it. There's a protobuf for the format of the Firehose as well. And there's a few substreams. There's a Yarrow, who might be here, has been working on the substream. So, for example, there's a few things that have been worked on. And what does that look like? Well, so your Firehose can output all the stuff that's actually in the beacon chain, not just the blob. So the gas, the fees, the block hashes, the timestamp, whatever. So all the information that's in the beacon chain is part of the Firehose beacon, including the blobs. So how does it kind of work? So you're starting with the beacon RPC. So for all of our testing, we use Lighthouse. It should work for any of the other consensus layers. Use the RPC polar to generate Firehose flat files, then use substreams to extract the data from Firehose. And then for this little example here, I'm using the Prometheus subtivity sync, which was done by the Pinax team, more than a year ago. And then we're storing this data into Prometheus, which most indexers would be using to monitor their infrastructure. In Pinax, we also use Prometheus to monitor what's going on the blockchain. So we pull data out of Firehose and substreams, store it into Prometheus, and then we can generate alerts into our normal alerting system based on things that happen on chain. So in this case, I'm graphing the number of blobs per second. So 0.2 blobs per second are being generated this was on Goerli last week. Another example workflow. So this is new, in the last day. So all the beginning part of the workflow from before stays. And here we're using substreams to extract the data into a key value store. So this is using the standard Streaming Fast substream sync KV. And then we built a separate API component that uses the data that's stored in the key value store and exposes an beacon compatible API that exposes the blobs. So this is all new. Again, this is open source. Yarrow's been building it. So just going through the workflow in full. We start with the Beacon API. We have the Beacon RPC Polar, which has been written by Fred on the Pinax team. We've got Firehose that outputs the flat files. Substreams read from that. We have a substream, which is the blob SPKG, one or more of those that knows how to read data from substreams. We have the KV sync, which existed, TiKV, which we're using to store the data as a key value store. We've written the blob API, and then we have the user at the end. So there's a whole bunch of pieces here, but only the ones with the star are the ones that had to be written for this project. So we need the RPC Polar, which is written in Go. We've got the SPKG, which is written in Rust, and then the blob API at the end, which is written in Go. So these three components just fit into the standard stack that we have as part of the Graph ecosystem, and we can build a fully compatible API. So that's what we built. So this way, Oprah can send out blobs to everyone. So next steps, really we want to know how you want to use blobs. So this is one API. So I've showed you two examples of what we're doing with blobs. One, putting it into Prometheus and showing a chart and generating alerts. One, putting it into a key value store and generating a Beacon compatible API. But if other people have ideas for what they want to do with blobs, feel free to send them along. So I believe at this point we've got the block model correct, where we can build a 100% compatible API. So the last adjustments were done on this morning. Maybe other people have ideas what we can do with the Beacon chain. And we just the next step is really testing this to integrate into GraphNode. So Yarrow's working on that next, so that you can pull the data from the Beacon chain, Firehose substreams into GraphNode. So if you want the data going in GraphNode, that'll work too. So yeah, so that's the whole shebang of what we're working on. So if you want access to the Firehose, just send me a message. It's not public at the moment, but it will be very shortly. So we're going to launch it for 𝗨𝗪, 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂, Sepolia. And by the time the Gnosis and Ethereum chains get to their point where they have a hard fork on March 11th and 13th, then these Firehose consensus layer Firehose will be available as well. So now that you have a Firehose for the execution layer, and you have a Firehose for the consensus layer. Got a couple of references here, and yeah, any questions?
Amazing. First question is, can you share the slides in the chat?
I can. They're not public yet.
Oh, okay. No stress. Whenever you make them public,
I will share them.
Yeah. Awesome. And then in the meantime, folks, feel free to fire away with questions. I see Vince is already typing.
There you go. We can share the link.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
So hopefully this addresses the question that came up a couple of weeks ago. What is the graph doing about blobs? Hopefully this is a good story. As I said, if you want to see something else, you think this is not the entire right approach, send feedback. But basically, this stuff all works.
Yes, very keen to hear people's thoughts on this. I see Vince is typing. The memes just don't stop coming from Pinax. It's unbelievable. Like, it's incredible. Okay, we got a question from Vince. Matthew, feel free to address it.
So if you're not saving the blobs, okay, so this is a good question. So if you're not saving the blobs at the time of the hard fork, there's no way to get them from syncing to the peer-to-peer network, right? You need to get them from somebody who has them. So either Pinax's Firehose or some other RPC provider, or get a backup from somebody, snapshot. But yeah, you cannot sync them from the network. So somebody will have to send them to you. So one of the ideas behind this blob compatible RPC endpoint is you could put, if you have a what do you call it, a proxy server in your environment, you could proxy normal request to your normal beacon node, and you could send the other ones to the so your normal consensus layer queries can go your normal consensus layer, and you can send the blob request to the proxy for the ones that you don't have. So that's one of the reasons that API was built. So of course we can share the merge blocks as well. As usual, we're happy to share merge blocks with other indexers. You just need to send me a message and we'll share that. As the file hosting service gets going, that the GraphOps team is working on, then of course sharing blobs through the file hosting service will be a good use case for that. So either the merge block or the blobs directly. But the goal right now is to make sure we don't lose these blobs. So if somebody else wants to run the Firehose consensus layer, that would be great. So then at least we have somebody else keeping a copy. It's not all just on Pinax side. It's easy to run. It's an RPC poller. So just set up one node that's pulling the data from the consensus layer and writing out flat files. So if you've run a Firehose for anything else, this is just as easy as any of the other Firehoses, if not easier. Yeah, the validation question is a good one. I think that's an opportunity for more research on validating things.
Apologies if I missed this. I was focused on the comments. Did you respond to Vince's question on storage, Matthew?
Oh, storage. I don't know. It's gigabytes, 3 gigs per day. Oh yeah, Yaro's answering the question. So the rest of the beacon chain is relatively small compared to the blobs, I think. Oh, and the other thing is we've run the beacon chain from Genesis with Firehose, so you do have access to the pre-decon hard fork consensus layer data, which is quite a bit smaller, but yeah, the whole history of the beacon chain is available. And feel free to store the blobs on HDD. No need for NVMe storage for this. Spinning Rust will work fine.
Let's see, typing in, which means probably another question coming. Who's
And
writing the first blob sub?
Yeah, Yarrow's writing the first blob subgraph.
Amazing. If Yarrow is able to come off mic, Yarrow, would you like to comment on this subgraph if you are capable?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Amazing.
Yeah, that subgraph just basically same stuff that Matthew told about, just basically the blob data with some metadata that comes from the Lighthouse API. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, to be able to get it on the network needs some work to be done. To add those consensus layer networks. Right now they're not kind of supported, but yeah, if there is usage for it, I'm sure they'll be added at some point. But yeah, you should be able to run it like on private graph node deployment anytime.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We've got a question from Derek. Do you have a better idea of what consumers might use prior to blob? Do we have a better idea of what consumers might use prior blob data for data validation? Question mark.
If it's a question for me, yeah. Well, anything, I guess. Like for rollup validation, probably not the case because you'd kind of need it within that the time frame where you can dispute, right, the transactions. But for any other stuff like inscriptions, NFTs, I don't know, maybe some file sharing, whatnot, it can be used, I guess, whatever people find used for, and as long as they're ready to pay for it, for those transactions, they can use it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, curious about use cases. We'll see.
Amazing. There's a question here from Mark Andre if you want to address either Yarrow or Matthew.
I don't understand the details of the question.
Yeah, I don't know it's necessary for Pinax, but today I think there's this concept of data edge in subgraphs, and for the QS subgraph, for instance, we use the Noses chain as a data availability layer. I was wondering maybe if the blobs could be a good application for this instead. I don't remember who developed that. Maybe it's GraphOps that worked with that before.
Yeah, I
Oops, sorry.
can comment. So I should say that it was EdgeNode and Zach Burns in particular that developed the data edge contract and kind of overall design. And Juan on our team has worked on the QoS Oracle subgraph that indexes that data edge. I think, you know, my like surface level response would be like, yes, that makes sense. But going deeper, I wonder whether it does in fact make sense, because at least for the QoS Oracle, the data edge is just used to post the hash of the data that is posted, you know, the content addressable hash of what is posted to IPFS. So all of the QoS data itself lives on IPFS. So I suppose one could consider moving that data from IPFS to blobs, but yeah, on the surface, I'm not sure if that makes sense. And then one could also imagine moving the metadata that, you know, contains the CID from call data to blobs. And there could be some cost savings there, but again, I don't know. I don't know if it's fully worth doing it for, at least for the QoS Oracle use case. But yeah, more generically, I think yeah, a data edge that tracks blobs is an interesting idea for sure.
Amazing. Zach, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was just going to add on to a comment Yarrow made earlier about having this on the network. In order to have this on the network, one of the things you may or may not know is that currently the gateway uses, so the gateway, knows how to keep in sync. It needs to know the current block time, the current block time. And currently the way that works is it does a query to an RPC endpoint. Well, the beacon nodes have a different RPC endpoint than the execution nodes. So these are not compatible with each other. So the Streaming Fast team, in conjunction with Edge and Node, has been working on coming up with a new, I don't know if we want to call it a standard, but I'll use that word, for how non-EVM compatible chains will be integrated onto the network. So this will be things like Arweave, Cosmos, Solana, Bitcoin, and the beacon or the consensus layer chains. So that is called, so instead of using an RPC endpoint, it's going to use a service called Block Meta. Block Meta is, guess what? It's a substream that syncs into a key value store and exposes an API. Funny, it looks pretty much like the blob service that I just discussed. So that's how we're going to be able to integrate the consensus layer blockchains into the network. So, so that will be coming for all the non-EVM chains. So if you hear about a block meta service, this is what it's for.
There you go, Alpha. Thank you.
Random question that comes to mind. Yeah, firstly, I must say again, fantastic work to the whole Pinax team. You guys have mobilized really quickly on this. So I guess my question is, in my mind, where all of these blobs should probably, where they should probably land up is object storage, assuming that we have hundreds of terabytes of these things, particularly if other networks begin to add similar blob transaction support. So yeah, did you do you agree, and did you consider an API that reads over the flat files directly to serve the blob data as opposed to the KV store?
That could be done as well. There's no reason that you, if you give the block number where you want to retrieve the blob from, or in the consensus layer it's called the slot number. In Firehose terms it's called a block. In the consensus layer it's called a slot. If you provide the slot number, then the Firehose already exposes an API to retrieve the data by block number, or slot number in this case. So there's no reason you can't pull the data directly from Firehose for the block in question. So yes, easy to do.
That makes total sense. I guess I'm just asking because, we're talking about the direction that is pursued. And I see huge value in the beacon compatible API. That's a really fantastic feat. But yes, if we could deliver that API in a way that was backed by object storage, as opposed to KV storage. Yeah, I mean, obviously that comes with trade-offs, and it's worth thinking about what those are. But for the type of data, that approach might make more sense.
Yeah, so that's totally fair comment. Up till now we built something. Maybe this is not the right thing. So we really need to understand what people want to do with this, and then now that we have all the data, we can change how it gets stored, served, whatever. So there's certainly openness to change how things work.
Yeah, I think the idea behind this project, like this small project, was kind of show how you can use the graph stack to kind of build, extract, transform, load the whole thing, and I think it's pretty straightforward, and just kind of showcase the whole thing, the whole kind of flow. Because build an API on top of just some flat files is kind of boring. And doing this kind of workflow, and just with all the tools that we got, thanks to Streaming Fast, the Graph Engine, and everything else, kind of new, kind of exciting. So that's kind of good to play with.
Yeah, I would second that as well. So I mean, this shows the power of the RPC polar, right? Because without rebuilding much at all of a sudden you got a whole Firehose substrate implementation for a stack, and that was written. The first prototype was written in less than a day, and the full thing was done in less than 3 days. So one engineer, less than 3 days work, you get the entire stack. Then Yarrow did the work on top after to put it into a KV sync, but the speed that we can develop things here is super fast thanks to the tech we have.
That's awesome. We've got another question from Derek, if you want to address that.
Is there a plan for blobs to be created on ELSE2s? I have no idea. I believe the existing layer 2 chains are plugging into the consensus layers that are on the L1. So if you go back to Anna's updates from earlier, there's you need to plug your Arbitrum, your Optimism into your consensus layer so that these blobs work. But I don't think I haven't seen anything that says there's going to be an additional blob layer between, say, L2 and L3. But who knows? Yeah, L2s will use it to post on L1, but what about L3s posting to L2s? This I don't know. Maybe other people are more knowledgeable about this.
I see a few people typing, so maybe someone's going to come with an answer. Okay, more praise coming in the chat, which is awesome. Cool. Keep the questions coming. I wanted to carve some time in today's conversation to maybe allow the tab members, the technical advisory board, just to share a few words about, first and foremost, congratulations for those who are nominated. I just want to, acknowledge that. Keep the questions coming for blobs as well. I just wanted to flag this before we wrap today. Let me just find the tweet. 1 second. I'll post this. Okay, yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing the tweet there, Pili. And yes, that's the PO app there, so make sure you claim that there. And I figured if we have a few of the folks who have been nominated in the call today, if you want to say a few words, but about your kind of approach with the technical advisory board, then yeah, feel free to. And no pressure, of course. But I just wanted to carve some time out before we wrap today's conversation. Just acknowledging the technical advisory board and some of the cool things that you guys are going to be doing in the coming weeks and months.
I can jump in on this one. So far, the technical advisory board is in kind of its early stages of getting our feet grounded and figuring out ways that we can best service the council, the Graph Council, to make sure that we can take some of the load off of their standard meetings, and just looking through the different GIPs and getting up to speed with where everything's at, the overall GIP process, the chain integration process, how all that works, and just making sure that we're experts on all of those different avenues, and that way we can start pushing those things forward. And while the name implies reviewing kind of the technical aspect of those implementations, which will free up the Graph Council to work on other things rather than going through GitHub repos and all that type of stuff. So we haven't had a ton of work quite yet. We're largely in the getting up to speed stage, so we should be able to offer a little bit more information in the coming weeks. But as of right now, we're getting up to speed.
There you go. Wonderful. I'm excited to hear about all the cool things you guys will be noodling on in the coming weeks and months once you're up to speed. Yeah, congratulations again. Thank you so much, Derek, for coming together. And congratulations to yourself and also the rest of the people who have been nominated. Okay, any final questions for the blob conversation before we wrap today's segment conversation? I feel the need for speed. Great. When article drop? Article on what? If you don't mind me asking. Oh, there's a lot of content already out on 4844. Do you mean from Pinex? From the graph. Okay. I don't know, but I can find out for you. And then I can maybe DM you and let you know if that's something on the content calendar. I would assume so. Let me get back to you on that. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Alrighty. Well, if there aren't any additional questions, I will take this opportunity to say thank you to everyone who joined today's Index or Office Hours. I hope you got your PO-apps. And I hope you learned some things. This was a fun conversation as always. And we look forward to seeing you again, same time next week, 6 p.m. UTC on Tuesday, every Tuesday. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Bye-bye.